Hey everyone, and welcome back to another explainer. I'm honestly just so incredibly excited about today's topic because we're going to uncover the hidden, living heartbeat of the very language we use every single day. We use words so effortlessly, but there's this massive invisible machinery just working away behind the scenes of all our conversations. And before we expose exactly how this linguistic engine works, if you love deep dives that completely change how you see the world, do me a quick favor, smash that like button, share this explainer with a fellow word nerd, and make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you don't miss any of our future topics. Right, so think about this for a second. How do you instantly understand a word you have absolutely never heard before? I mean, it happens all the time, right? Someone drops a brand new slang term, or they just kind of smash two concepts together, and without even opening a dictionary, your brain just effortlessly decodes it. No way, that's magic. It happens because language is this active, ongoing process that you're unconsciously participating in literally every time you open your mouth or type a text. Okay, let's just dive straight into it. The real secret behind this instant comprehension is a concept called morphological productivity. Basically, this is the capacity of a grammatical pattern like, say, an affix or a specific word formation process to be used by everyday speakers to create entirely new words that are just instantly understood by everyone else. This right here, this is the silent engine I was talking about. It's the machine generating our living vocabulary in real time. And honestly, this is exactly what makes a language alive. Morphological productivity represents the absolute fundamental difference between a dead grammatical rule, one that's just kind of etched into the fossils of our existing vocabulary, and a living rule that constantly breathes new life into the lexicon. So it means language isn't just some giant list of static terms you have to painstakingly memorize. No, it's a continuous, vital creation process. It gives you the power to constantly expand it. Which brings us to Section 1, Rule versus Creativity, where we look at the systematic versus the intentional. We really need to draw a line in the sand here and separate the automatic machinery of language from, mere artistic invention. Because productivity and creativity, they are absolutely not the same thing in linguistics. When we talk about morphological productivity, it's heavily rule-governed. It operates on this unintentional logic. Like when a little kid says, good to the park, they're brilliantly applying a productive rule, adding ed for past tense, even if that specific word happens to be an exception. Or when you talk about unfriending someone online, you're systematically applying that prefix for reversal. It's totally predictable. Contrast that with lexical creativity. This is rule-breaking. It's intentional. It's poetic. It's a massive leap of the imagination. Like when Lewis Carroll wrote the word chortle. He intentionally blended chuckle and snort. That's a highly idiosyncratic, imaginative leap, which is completely different from the steady, predictable march of morphological rules. Let's move on to Section 2, the affix life cycle, which really exists on a spectrum of vitality. Because in the vast landscape of linguistics, productivity isn't just a binary state. It's not just on or off. Grammatical rules actually have a biological life cycle of their own. This spectrum breaks it down perfectly. Right at the top, we've got the highly productive affixes, the real prolific ones. Take the suffix ness. It is an absolute titan of English. You can slap it onto almost any adjective to make a noun. Greenness, obsoleteness, or even modern slang like vibeness. It's so active you don't even have to learn these words. You just generate them naturally. Then in the middle, we have semi-productive affixes like able. It's highly productive with verbs, giving us stuff like washable or tweetable, but it's a bit more selective. Like we say readable, but we rarely say dieable, right? And finally, at the bottom, the unproductive relics. Take a look at the suffix th. We use it to form abstract nouns from adjectives like stealth or depth, but the rule itself, totally dead. It's a fossil. If you discover a brand new adjective today, let's just say crunchy, no English speaker is going to naturally say, wow, look at the crunched of that apple. I mean, it just doesn't happen. The rule completely retreated into history. Moving into Section 3, Gatekeepers and the blocking effect. Because you might be wondering, if language is constantly churning out new words, why isn't it just total chaos? Well, language actually has natural guards keeping it in check. So I want you to answer this question for me. We have a very productive rule in English where we add to a verb to describe the person doing the action. A person who runs is a runner. A person who paints is a painter. So logically, following that exact same rule, a person who steals should be a stealer. Why don't we say that? The answer to that exact riddle is a really cool phenomenon called linguistic blocking. This happens when a highly productive rule is completely prevented from applying simply because a word already exists that fills that specific semantic slot. So the high-frequency, irregular word thief already exists. It fully occupies that space in our brains. And because thief is so deeply entrenched, it acts kind of like a bouncer at a club, just stopping the logical, rule-based creation of stealer right in its tracks, in any standard context. And blocking isn't the only gatekeeper. There are other absolutely fascinating constraints. For instance, we have phonological constraints that are based entirely on sound profiles. The suffix n, which we use to make verbs like whiten or soften, well, it generally only likes to attach to words that end in a specific type of obstructed sound. That is exactly why blacken works beautifully, but your brain instinctively knows not to say something awkward like bluein. The sound profile literally dictates the rule. We also have morphological constraints. So suffixes that come from Latin, like essenity, strongly prefer to attach to Latin roots. We say scarcity because scarce has a Latin root, but for a Germanic root like scant, we naturally prefer scantness over scantity. Your brain is doing all this complex historical matching totally automatically. All right, section 4, measuring productivity, specifically using the Bayesian formula. So far, we've talked about the feeling of productivity, but linguists can actually measure this vitality mathematically. So what does the number 1 have to do with measuring language? Well, a linguist named Harold Bayen developed mathematical models to quantify exactly how open or productive a category is. And the key metric he used hinges on something called hapax legomena. Now, I know that sounds like an intimidating Latin spell, but it simply means one-hit wonders, words that appear exactly one time in a massive, multi-million word collection of text. Here is Bayen's elegant logic. If you're studying a suffix, and you notice it has thousands of words that appear only one single time in a giant text corpus, what does that actually prove? It proves that speakers aren't just retrieving memorized words from a dictionary. They are actively, continuously building brand new words on the fly to suit their immediate needs. A suffix with a huge number of these one-hit wonders is mathematically proven to be highly productive. Which brings us to our 5th and final section, word evolution and the Shakespearean limit. We've looked at the math, but what happens when master communicators push these living rules to their absolute limits? If we trace the diachronic flow, which is just the historical timeline of English, we see our word-building habits shifting significantly. Back in Old English, prefixation was the dominant mode, kind of much like German is today. Over centuries, moving into Middle and Modern English, our habits shifted heavily towards suffixation and compounding. The productivity of an affix really reflects the soul of its era. And by the Elizabethan era, the rules were perfectly primed for a genius. Enter William Shakespeare. Shakespeare didn't just use words, he treated affixes, specifically prefixes like un, like a paintbrush, really testing the extreme boundaries of productivity. He gave us daring new creations like unshout. And this quote brilliantly illustrates his mastery. Now mark me how I will unking myself. This is from Richard II. So the absolute crucial point here is that Shakespeare isn't just casually deploying a vocabulary word. He is forcefully witnessing the birth of one through a highly productive morphological rule. He takes a noun, king, turns it into a state of being, and then forcefully rips it away using the un prefix. It's literally a morphological event happening right before the audience's ears. Which brings us to our final thought. Language is absolutely not a museum of dusty exhibits. It's a living, breathing organism, and morphological productivity is its heartbeat. The rules of language are alive, and they are waiting for you. Every single time you use a new word or blend an affix to capture a feeling and your audience actually understands you, you are actively participating in the grand, rule-governed evolution of human thought. So what new word will you build today? Think about that the next time you send a text or write an email. And thank you so much for watching this explainer. If you found this breakdown of our living language as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more structured deep dives, and definitely share this explainer with someone who loves learning. I'll see you in the next one.